Hey, Stoic friends, let's be honest. We've all been told that if you want someone to want you, you have to try harder. Be more available, show more interest, put in more effort. But has that ever actually worked? More often than not, chasing someone only pushes them further away. The more you try to convince them of your worth, the less they seem to notice it. And the harder you hold on, the faster they slip through your fingers. But what if I told you there's a different way? A way to make him crave you, not by chasing, but by mastering the art of absence. Here's the truth. Desire is built in space, not in closeness. When someone always knows you're there, when there's no gap, no moment of uncertainty, there's no room for attraction to grow. But when you step back, when you shift your energy inward, when you focus on you instead of him, that's when the dynamic changes. That's when he starts to notice, to wonder, to crave. This isn't about playing games or manipulating emotions. It's about understanding human psychology and why people value what they can't always have. When you stop chasing, when you remove the pressure, when you create space for someone to miss you, that's when you become irresistible. So today, we're breaking down how to master the art of absence, not just to make him crave you, but to shift the way you see attraction entirely. By the end of this, you won't just understand how to draw him in, you'll understand how to step into your own power. Before we dive in, drop a comment below with, "I own my presence." And if you're ready to unlock this mindset shift, let's get started. Number 1. Understand the power of absence. Hey, Stoic friends, have you ever noticed that the moment you stop trying, the moment you pull back, suddenly everything shifts? Someone who once seemed distant, distracted, or uninterested suddenly starts paying attention. They notice your absence, they feel the space you've created, and suddenly they start craving what they once took for granted. That's the power of absence, a force so strong that it reshapes relationships, shifts dynamics, and creates desire without a single word. But here's where most people get it wrong. They assume absence means simply ignoring someone. They think it's about playing hard to get, about waiting for them to reach out first. But true absence, the kind that actually creates attraction, isn't about games. It's about energy. When you understand this, you stop focusing on what they're thinking and start shifting into a mindset where you naturally become someone they don't want to lose. Because let's be honest, people don't crave what's always available. They crave what they feel they might lose. Imagine this. You're always the one initiating, always making yourself available, always ready to give more. At first, it feels like the right thing to do. You care, so you show it. You think that the more love you give, the more love you'll receive. But instead, what happens? They start responding less. They take longer to reply. They become comfortable knowing you're always there. And that comfort? It kills desire. Now picture the opposite. You step back, not to manipulate, not to make them chase, but because you understand that space creates value. Suddenly, they start noticing your absence. They start questioning why your energy has shifted. They start to wonder, did I take them for granted? Are they moving on? And that feeling of uncertainty is what sparks the craving. This is where the true power of absence lies. It shifts the focus. Instead of you trying to prove your worth, they start questioning if they misjudged yours. Instead of you being the one always waiting, they become the one wondering. But here's the key. You have to mean it. Absence isn't just about stepping away physically. It's about stepping away mentally and emotionally. If you're still checking your phone, still waiting for a response, still obsessing over whether they'll notice, you haven't actually pulled back. You're just pretending. And people can sense that. True absence is about detachment. It's about stepping into your own power so completely that their validation is no longer something you need. It's about filling your time, your energy, your life with things that make you feel whole, so that when they look back, they don't just see someone who disappeared. They see someone who evolved. And that, Stoic friends, is what makes them crave you. Not because you tricked them into missing you, but because your energy has shifted so profoundly that they feel the difference. And suddenly, the absence you created is the very thing that makes them realize what they had all along. So tell me, have you ever stepped back and noticed how everything changed? Drop a comment below with, "I reclaim my energy." And if this is starting to shift the way you see attraction, stay with me, because what comes next takes this to an entirely new level. Let's keep going. Number 2, create a life he wants to be a part of. Hey, Stoic friends, have you ever met someone who just had this undeniable energy? The kind of person who walks into a room and you feel their presence before they even say a word? It's not because they're the loudest. It's not because they're the most physically attractive. It's because they've built a life that's full, rich, and completely their own. And when you create that kind of life for yourself, something interesting happens. People don't just notice, they want to be a part of it. So many people approach attraction the wrong way. They think the key to making someone crave them is to always be available, to always say yes, to shape their life around the other person's interests. But the more you do that, the more predictable you become. And the more predictable you are, the less intrigue, the less excitement, and the less pull you create. When you make someone the center of your world too quickly, they don't see you as someone to win over. They see you as someone who's already won over. And that changes everything. Instead of making him the focus, shift your attention back to yourself. When was the last time you did something purely for you? Not because you thought it would impress someone, not because you thought it would make someone like you more, but because it genuinely made you feel alive? The most magnetic people are the ones who are deeply invested in their own growth, their own passions, and their own happiness. Because when someone is happy on their own, they create a natural gravitational pull that draws people in without effort. Think about it. Why are we so fascinated by people who seem completely unbothered? Why do we find ourselves drawn to those who move through life with purpose, who don't seek validation, but simply exist in a way that commands respect and attention? It's because deep down, we all want to be around that kind of energy. When you stop looking for someone to complete you and start living like you are already complete, people take notice. This doesn't mean playing games or pretending you're busy when you're not. It means actually having a life that excites you. Hobbies, friendships, goals, experiences that have nothing to do with whether or not someone is watching. When you're genuinely passionate about something, it shows. It changes the way you carry yourself. It makes you more engaging, more dynamic, more intriguing. And when someone sees that, they don't just admire it. They want in. Have you ever noticed how people suddenly become more interested when you start pulling back, focusing on yourself, and doing your own thing? That's because they feel the difference. They sense that you're no longer waiting, no longer molding yourself to fit their world. You are living in your world. And that shift, when you stop seeking and start simply being, that's where attraction is born. Now, let's talk about availability. One of the fastest ways to lose someone's interest is to be too available, too predictable, too eager. It's not about ignoring them or acting distant for the sake of it. It's about ensuring that your life is full enough, that your attention is something valuable, not something handed out freely. When you're always ready to reply, always waiting for plans, always prioritizing them over you, it sends a signal that your world revolves around them. But when your time is valuable, when you have things going on, when you have a schedule filled with things that fulfill you, that's when they start realizing they have to earn your attention. This is why some people become even more attractive after a breakup. It's not because they changed overnight. It's because they stopped waiting. They started focusing on themselves, their happiness, their growth. They started dressing better, working out, traveling, experiencing life in a way that wasn't dependent on someone else's presence. And suddenly, the person who once took them for granted starts looking back, wondering, did I overlook something? That's the power of creating a life that makes people want to be around you. But here's the most important part. You're not doing this for him. You're doing this for you. Because when you live a life that excites you, when you wake up every day feeling fulfilled, feeling whole, it won't even matter whether someone notices or not. You won't be sitting around wondering if he misses you because you'll be too busy living. And ironically, that's when they start craving you the most, because they can feel that you're no longer seeking, no longer needing, no longer waiting. So ask yourself, are you building a life that someone wants to be a part of? Or are you waiting for someone to come in and complete your life for you? The moment you stop searching for external validation and start pouring that energy into yourself, everything changes. People crave what they can't control, what they can't fully figure out, and what they might lose if they don't step up. If this resonates with you, drop a comment below with, "I am the prize." And if you're ready to make attraction effortless, keep watching, because what comes next is where things really start to shift. Number 3, master the art of mystery. Hey, Stoic friends, have you ever been drawn to someone? Not because they were the loudest in the room, not because they were trying to impress, but because there was something about them, something that made you curious, something that made you want to know more. That's the power of mystery, and when you master it, people don't just notice you. They remember you. Mystery isn't about being secretive or playing games. It's not about ignoring texts or pretending you don't care. It's about creating intrigue, leaving space for curiosity, and making sure people never quite feel like they have you completely figured out. Because the moment someone thinks they know everything about you, the excitement fades, predictability kills attraction. And the easiest way to keep someone thinking about you, make sure they don't know everything right away. So let's break this down. Why is mystery so powerful? Why do we naturally crave what isn't fully accessible? It all comes down to psychology. Human beings are wired to desire what feels just out of reach. When something is too easy to attain, it loses its value. But when there's an element of unpredictability, when there's something that keeps us guessing, that's when desire intensifies. Think about your favorite TV show or book. What keeps you hooked? It's not knowing exactly what's going to happen. It's the unknown, the anticipation, the gradual unfolding of a story that keeps you invested. Relationships work the same way. If you reveal everything about yourself immediately, if you give too much too soon, you remove the very thing that makes someone curious about you. And curiosity is the foundation of attraction. So how do you cultivate this in your own life? First, speak with intention. Not everything needs to be explained. When someone asks about your weekend, you don't need to lay out every single detail. Instead of saying, "Oh, I went to a new restaurant, watched a movie, and then had coffee with a friend," you can simply say, "Had an interesting weekend, tried something new. What about you?" That subtle shift does something powerful. It makes them ask more questions. It makes them lean in, wondering, what was interesting? What did they do? Second, control your availability. One of the fastest ways to lose mystery is by always being accessible. If you're always the first to respond, always the one initiating, always the one filling every silence, there's no space for someone to wonder about you. Instead of feeling the need to be seen, focus on being felt. Let people notice your absence sometimes. Let them wonder what you're up to. Because when someone has to think about you, they naturally start to crave your presence. And third, cultivate a life that isn't fully visible. In today's world, where social media oversharing is the norm, mystery is rare. Most people post every meal, every thought, every moment of their day. But when you don't, when you leave gaps, when you let people see just enough without giving away everything, that's when people start paying attention. They start checking in more. They start noticing. This isn't about being distant or withholding affection. It's about making sure your presence means something when you show up. People don't value what's always available. They value what they have to earn, what they have to figure out, what feels unique to them. Imagine this. Two people walk into a room. One immediately tries to impress, oversharing everything about themselves, filling every silence with words. The other? They speak with purpose. They don't reveal everything up front. They listen more than they talk. And because they don't give everything away, they make people want to know more. That's the energy you want to cultivate. The energy of someone who isn't trying to be seen, but someone who naturally draws people in. When you understand this, you stop over-explaining. You stop trying to prove yourself. You stop feeling the need to give away everything at once, because you know that the less you reveal, the more powerful your presence becomes. And here's the irony. When you stop chasing attention, you get more of it. When you become a little more unpredictable, when you allow space for curiosity, when you exist in a way that makes people want to know more, they naturally start seeking you out. They start craving your presence, not because you demanded it, but because you created a sense of mystery that they couldn't ignore. So, Stoic friends, are you ready to embrace this shift? Are you ready to move differently, to hold a little back, to let people wonder about you instead of always making yourself fully known? Drop a comment below with, "Mystery creates attraction." And if you're starting to see how powerful this can be, stay with me, because what comes next will show you how to maintain this energy without losing connection. Let's keep going. Number 4, don't always be available. Hey, Stoic friends, let's talk about something that can completely shift the way people see you: your availability. Have you ever noticed how people take you for granted when you're always there? How, no matter how much effort you put in, they seem less interested over time. But the moment you pull back, the moment you stop being so accessible, suddenly they start noticing. That's not a coincidence. It's human psychology. We are wired to value what feels scarce. When something is always available, when there's no uncertainty, no space, no need to wonder, it becomes ordinary. But when something isn't always accessible, when there's a sense that it could be lost, that's when people start paying attention. Most people think that being available all the time is how you show love, how you build a connection. They believe that responding instantly, always making time, always prioritizing someone else's needs, is what keeps them close. But ironically, that's often what pushes them away. When you remove all space, you remove all attraction. Think about it. Why do we crave what we almost have but not quite? Why do we get hooked on things that make us wait? It's because our brains associate effort with value. When something is effortless to obtain, we assume it's not that special. But when there's a sense of challenge, when we feel like we have to earn it, suddenly it becomes more meaningful. Now, let's apply this to attraction. If you're always available, always answering messages immediately, always ready to drop your plans, always adjusting your schedule to fit someone else's, it sends a subtle message. I have nothing more important than you. And while that might sound sweet in theory, in reality, it lowers your perceived value. People don't crave what they already have complete access to. They crave what feels just slightly out of reach. So how do you break this pattern? How do you shift the dynamic so that your presence is felt rather than taken for granted? First, stop responding instantly. You don't need to be glued to your phone. You don't need to jump the moment they text. When you always respond immediately, there's no space for anticipation, no room for them to wonder about you. Instead, create natural delays. Let them sit with their thoughts. Let them notice your absence. Second, have a life so full that you're naturally unavailable. This isn't about playing games or pretending to be busy. It's about actually being busy with your passions, your goals, your personal growth. When your life is interesting, when you have things going on that genuinely fulfill you, you won't always be available. And that, in itself, makes you more desirable. Third, control your energy. Being unavailable isn't just about time. It's about where you invest your emotional energy. If you're constantly checking in, overthinking, worrying about whether they'll reach out, then even if you're physically distant, you're still mentally too available. Detachment is key. When you truly focus on yourself, people feel that shift, and that shift is what makes them crave you. But let's be clear, being less available doesn't mean being cold or distant. It doesn't mean ignoring people or acting like you don't care. It means balancing presence with absence. When you do give your attention, make it meaningful, show up fully, but also know when to step back, when to let things breathe, when to let them come to you. The most powerful people in any dynamic are the ones who know the value of their presence. They don't overextend. They don't chase. They don't overgive. Instead, they move in a way that makes others feel their presence and notice their absence. So, Stoic friends, take a moment to reflect. Are you making yourself too available? Have you been giving too much, too soon, without allowing space for attraction to grow? If this resonates with you, drop a comment below with, "I protect my energy." And if you're starting to understand how powerful absence can be, stay with me, because what's coming next will take this to a whole new level. Let's keep going. Number 5. Let him experience missing you. Hey, Stoic friends, have you ever wondered why distance can make feelings stronger? Why someone who seemed indifferent suddenly starts reaching out the moment you step back? It's because missing someone isn't a conscious decision. It's an emotional reaction. And if you want someone to crave you, to truly feel your absence, you have to give them the space to miss you. Most people make the mistake of thinking that the more effort they put in, the more someone will appreciate them. They believe that constantly reminding someone of their presence will keep the connection alive. But the truth? Feelings don't grow when you're always there. They grow in your absence. Think about it. When something is always available, you don't have the chance to realize how valuable it is. It becomes part of the background, something that's just there. But the moment it's gone, the moment you can't access it so easily, that's when you start to notice its impact. That's when you start to crave it. And this applies to relationships more than anything else. If you're always initiating, always texting first, always making plans, then you're not allowing any space for him to feel what it's like without you. And without that contrast, without that feeling of something being missing, desire starts to fade. So how do you make him experience missing you in a way that actually strengthens the connection? First, step back without warning. Not in a dramatic way, not to play games, but in a way that allows him to feel the difference. If you've been overextending, overgiving, constantly making yourself available, it's time to stop. Let there be silence. Let him be the one to wonder. The moment you stop reaching out first, the moment you create even a little bit of space, you shift the entire dynamic. Second, remove your presence in subtle ways. Maybe you stop reacting to his social media posts. Maybe you stop always being the first to respond. Maybe you politely decline plans because you have something else going on. It's not about ignoring him. It's about creating moments where he notices your absence. And that noticing, that's where the craving starts. Third, become so fulfilled on your own that your absence is felt. The most attractive people are the ones who have something going on outside of their relationships. If he sees that you're genuinely happy, genuinely engaged in your own life, genuinely thriving without him, it triggers something deep in his psychology. He starts to realize your value. Because now, instead of being someone he assumes will always be there, you become someone he might actually lose. And that's the key. People don't value what they think they can have at any time. They value what feels just a little out of reach. What requires effort? What isn't guaranteed? When he starts feeling that you are no longer waiting, when he senses that you are living your life without needing his presence, that's when he starts feeling your absence. Now, let's be clear. This isn't about making someone chase you just for the sake of it. It's not about manipulation or mind games. It's about understanding that you can't force someone to value you. What you can do is create the conditions that make them realize your worth on their own. And that realization only happens when they experience the contrast. When they go from having access to you to suddenly feeling the lack of it. This is why distance after a breakup often makes people rethink their decisions. It's why an ex who seemed certain about walking away suddenly starts texting after weeks of silence. It's why people often don't appreciate what they have until it's no longer easily available. Because when you're always there, they never have the chance to question what it's like without you. So ask yourself, have you been giving him the space to miss you? Have you allowed moments of absence to create emotional contrast? Because if not, it might be time to pull back. Not to punish, not to control, but to simply allow space for desire to build naturally. If this resonates with you, drop a comment below with, "I allow space for desire." And if you're ready to take this understanding even deeper, Stay with me, because what comes next will show you how to make that craving even stronger. Let's keep going. Number 6. Use social proof to your advantage. Hey, Stoic friends, have you ever wondered why we tend to want things that seem to be in high demand? Why an exclusive event feels more exciting than one anyone can attend? Why a limited edition product seems instantly more valuable? It's not because the product itself is inherently better. It's because we are wired to desire what others already value. And the same thing happens in relationships. Attraction isn't just about chemistry or compatibility. It's also about perception. People naturally gravitate toward those who are seen as valuable by others. It's the reason why someone might not have noticed you before, but the moment they see you surrounded by friends, receiving admiration, or simply living a full life, they start looking at you differently. You don't need to convince them of your worth. They begin to see it for themselves. Think about the times you felt drawn to someone without them even trying. Maybe it was the way they carried themselves with ease, how people lit up when they were around, or the effortless confidence they exuded. It wasn't because they were constantly proving themselves. It was because their presence already spoke volumes. That's the power of social proof. When others admire, respect, and appreciate you, it shifts how people perceive you without you having to say a word. If you've ever noticed that people seem more interested when you're thriving in your own life, that's not a coincidence. The moment you stop centering your world around one person and start embracing the connections, passions, and opportunities available to you, people feel that shift. They see that your attention is something that isn't given away easily, and that makes it more valuable. When someone senses that your time is in demand, that your energy is sought after, it creates a different dynamic. Instead of chasing, instead of over-explaining your worth, you become someone others naturally want to be around. And the best part? You don't have to force it. You simply have to live it. Social proof doesn't mean putting on a performance or trying to look busy. It means genuinely investing in yourself and the people around you. It's about allowing your life to be filled with experiences that don't revolve around one person. When you start prioritizing your own growth, your friendships, your goals, and your own personal joy, it radiates outward. Others begin to notice, and the person you're interested in feels the difference. This isn't about making someone jealous or playing mind games. It's about creating an energy that naturally draws people in. When someone sees that you're engaged with life, that you have people who appreciate you, that you are not sitting around waiting for them, they start to realize something important. Your time and attention are not guaranteed, and that realization shifts everything. If you've ever pulled back slightly and noticed someone suddenly becoming more attentive, this is why. Not because you were manipulating them, but because they started to experience the reality that you are not endlessly available. They began to feel the weight of your absence, the intrigue of your presence, and the pull of your energy. You don't need to announce that you have options or try to prove that others value you. That kind of validation seeking only weakens your position. The key is to embody social proof, to become someone who is naturally valued and respected, not because you're trying to show off, but because you've cultivated a life that is already rich, interesting, and fulfilling. Have you ever noticed how people are drawn to those who are already thriving? The energy of someone who is secure, fulfilled, and valued by others is magnetic. And when someone sees that you are admired, appreciated, and surrounded by people who respect you, they subconsciously begin to view you in the same way. So ask yourself, are you truly living in a way that makes others see your value? Are you engaged in life, or are you waiting for one person's attention to validate your worth? If this resonates with you, drop a comment below with "I create my own value." And if you're starting to see how powerful this shift can be, stay with me, because what's next will show you how to maintain attraction while keeping your sense of self intact. Let's keep going. Number 7. Balance warmth and distance. Hey, Stoic friends, have you ever felt like you were either too available or too distant in a connection? Like when you give too much, they pull away. But when you pull back, they suddenly start noticing you again. It's a frustrating cycle, and it often leaves people feeling like they have to choose between being loving or being distant. But the truth is, the key to maintaining attraction isn't about being one or the other. It's about balancing warmth and distance in a way that keeps the connection alive while maintaining your self-respect. Attraction is built on tension. Not tension in a negative, stressful way, but in the sense that there's always an element of uncertainty, a sense that the other person still has something to figure out about you. If you're too warm, too available, and always present, that tension disappears. On the other hand, if you're too distant, too cold, or too detached, it can push someone away entirely. The goal is to create an energy that is inviting yet unattainable, open yet slightly elusive. Think about the people you've been drawn to in the past. Chances are, they had an energy that was receptive, yet not entirely predictable. They were kind and warm when they were around, but they weren't always readily available. They made you feel special in the moments you shared, yet they had a life, a world, an identity that extended beyond the relationship. That balance is what keeps things exciting. It keeps the other person engaged while ensuring that they don't take you for granted. So how do you create this balance in your own life? It starts with how you give your energy. If you're always the one initiating, always the one responding instantly, always the one making plans, then there's no room for the other person to feel your absence. But if you pull back too much, if you become overly distant, they might assume you're not interested and move on. The key is to give just enough to make them feel connected, but not so much that they never have to wonder about you. For example, instead of always responding immediately, let conversations have natural pauses. Instead of always being available, have things in your life that make your time valuable. When you're with them, be fully present. Make them feel like the most important person in the room. But when you're apart, let there be gaps that allow them to feel the difference between your presence and your absence. This contrast is what makes someone appreciate the time they get with you. Another important factor in balancing warmth and distance is mirroring their energy. If they're putting in effort, match that effort. If they're pulling back, instead of chasing, allow space for them to come back on their own. This creates a natural rhythm in the relationship that feels effortless rather than forced. Relationships should never feel like you're constantly pushing for attention. They should feel like a dance, where both people are engaged in the movement. One of the most powerful ways to master this balance is through emotional self-sufficiency. When you are emotionally independent, you don't rely on someone else to dictate how you feel. You enjoy their presence, but you don't need it. You cherish your connection, but you also cherish your solitude. When you can hold both of these truths at the same time, you exude an energy that is deeply attractive because it signals that your happiness isn't conditional on them. People are drawn to those who bring value to their life, but don't make them the sole source of their happiness. When someone senses that you enjoy their presence, but that you are also perfectly fine without them, it shifts the power dynamic. Instead of them feeling like they have nothing to lose, they start realizing that your presence is something they want to keep. And let's be clear, balancing warmth and distance isn't about playing games or being manipulative. It's about having a healthy understanding of human nature. It's about recognizing that attraction thrives in the space between closeness and independence. The moment someone feels like they have you completely, they no longer have to work for your attention. But when they feel that you are warm yet independent, available yet slightly elusive, they stay engaged. So, Stoic friends, ask yourself, have you been giving too much without leaving room for someone to miss you? Or have you been too distant, making it hard for them to connect with you? The sweet spot lies in the middle. If this message resonates with you, drop a comment below with "I balance warmth and distance." Ooh. And if you're starting to see how this dynamic plays a role in attraction, keep watching, because what comes next is about making sure that when they step closer, they stay engaged. Let's keep going. Number 8. Let him invest in you. Hey, Stoic friends, let's talk about something most people overlook when it comes to attraction: investment. Not financial investment, not extravagant gifts, but but emotional and psychological investment. If you've ever wondered why some people seem more committed, more engaged, and more eager to be around someone, it's because they've had to invest in that connection. Here's the truth. We value what we put effort into. The more someone has to contribute, the more emotionally attached they become. This is why people who work hard for something appreciate it more than things handed to them effortlessly. And when it comes to relationships, the same rule applies. If he doesn't have to put in any effort, if everything is handed to him without any challenge, the connection starts to feel too easy. And when something feels too easy, it's taken for granted. The mistake many people make is thinking that if they do everything for someone, if they accommodate every request, if they always make the other person's life easier, they'll be appreciated more. But ironically, the opposite is true. The more you give without requiring anything in return, the less the other person has to earn your presence. And when something requires no effort, it loses its value. So how do you shift this dynamic? It's not about making someone prove their worth to you, and it's not about playing hard to get. It's about understanding that a healthy relationship is built on mutual effort. If you're always the one initiating, always the one compromising, always the one making things happen, then he's not investing in the connection. He's just receiving. And receiving without effort leads to complacency. People appreciate what they have to work for. This doesn't mean making things difficult just for the sake of it, but it does mean allowing space for his effort to be part of the equation. If he's interested, let him show it. If he values your time, let him make plans. If he wants to be part of your life, let him take action. When someone chooses to invest in you, rather than being handed everything without effort, their level of emotional engagement deepens naturally. Think about the relationships that have mattered most in your life. The friendships, the connections, the people you truly cherish. Chances are, these relationships required effort from both sides. They weren't just handed to you. You had to invest time, energy, and emotion into them. And because of that, they became meaningful. The same principle applies to romantic relationships. One of the best ways to encourage investment is to create opportunities for effort. Instead of always being the one to reach out, allow him to take the lead sometimes. Instead of always rearranging your schedule, let him find a way to fit into your life. Instead of constantly giving, allow yourself to receive. This doesn't mean being passive. It means recognizing that a balanced relationship is one where both people contribute. Let's be real, effort is attractive. When someone is willing to put in time, to make plans, to show up for you, it creates a foundation of genuine interest. And when you allow him to invest, when you allow him to contribute to the connection, it changes the way he feels about you. Because now, he's not just enjoying your presence, he's putting in effort to keep it. Think about this. If you always pay for someone's meals, always initiate every conversation, always adjust your life around theirs, then what are they contributing? What skin do they have in the game? But when they have to put something into the relationship, whether it's time, energy, or effort, they become more engaged. They start seeing the connection as something worth maintaining. And this isn't about being manipulative. It's not about making someone prove they care. It's about allowing space for effort to be part of the equation. If a relationship is built on one person giving everything while the other passively receives, it creates imbalance. And imbalance leads to resentment. So ask yourself, are you the one doing all the investing, or are you allowing space for him to contribute? Are you giving him the opportunity to step up, to show his interest, to prove through actions, not just words, that he values you? People don't cherish what is handed to them on a silver platter. They cherish what they have to put effort into. And when he starts investing, when he starts working to keep the connection, that's when you truly know his intentions. If this resonates with you, take a moment to reflect. Have you been over-giving without allowing space for him to invest? If so, it's time to shift. Not by withholding love, but by understanding that true attraction, true connection, is built on mutual effort. And with that, Stoic friends, you now have the key to making sure the effort is shared. Because when someone works for something, when they put in effort to be with you, they don't just want you, they value you. All right, Stoic friends, we've covered a lot today. Understanding the power of absence, creating a life he wants to be part of, mastering mystery, balancing warmth and distance, and most importantly, allowing him to invest in you. The key takeaway? You don't need to chase. You don't need to convince. You just need to become the kind of person who naturally draws people in. If this resonated with you, let me know in the comments. And if you're ready for more insights on relationships, self-worth, and emotional mastery, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Stay strong, stay intentional, and as always, keep moving with purpose. See you in the next video.